Hey, this is Nathan from Greedy Gorgon Press, and you are listening to Tales of the Manticore.
The following podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Tale of the Manticore, Season 3. Like the creature from which it takes its name, Tale of the Manticore is a mashup, a crossbreeding between two different species of storytelling. Here you will find the unpredictability of old-school paper and dice games with the storycraft of a dark fantasy novel. No character is sacred, and none will be spared if the dice decide their fate is at hand. According to lore, the tail of a manticore is barbed with cruel iron spikes. There will be much pain in the days ahead. Last time on Tale of the Manticore. In the last chapter, Tentir goes off on his own, ostensibly to fetch a torch for Fairwind. But it doesn't take long for his natural curiosity to sideline the mission in favor of something more exciting. He decides to explore parts of the crypt not yet visited. So, at the intersection where the party encountered the headless ghost of Learhain, instead of turning right, Tentir goes left. He follows the new passage until it ends at a stairwell that has been fully collapsed. Strangely, the cave-in seems to be localized only in the stairwell. Tentir doesn't think much of it and turns back. He chooses yet another unexplored hallway when he returns to the intersection. This time, remembering the spear trap the party passed by earlier, he's more cautious and slows his pace. After a while, he comes to a single chamber that features two suits of armor, one sized for an adult and one for an adolescent. Both are completely rusted and useless. To the right is a stanchion-flanked shelf holding ceramic jars. To the left is an iron-bound chest with no lock. While looking at the chest, a supernatural breeze passes through the room, and when Tentir looks back, the sword in the gauntleted hands of the smaller suit of armor has become shining and new. Clearly, some magic has transpired. Tentir continues to exercise caution and first examines the ceramic jars. Discovering oil, he lights one of the standing lamps. Now in good light, he examines the sword more closely and finally dares to take it. He knows he should leave, but his curiosity is still strong. Perhaps it would not hurt to look inside the chest before he goes. I revealed at the end of the previous episode that the chest is the trigger for an awful trap. If opened, it will cause the ceiling just outside the armor room to collapse, essentially entombing Tentir in the chamber. I came up with this nasty trap after rolling the event meaning, Stop Prison, in the last episode. This reminds me that I need a new one. Might as well do it now, rolling D100 twice. I've got 62 and 100. That's inspect information. Feels a bit vague. Well, I suppose I'll figure something out. But let's tuck that result away for now and come back to the situation at hand. What's really exciting about it, beyond the obvious, is that what happens next is not up to me, nor is it up to the dice. It's up to Kevin, who has control of Tentir right now. In my last exchange with Kevin, I tried to tempt him a little. Don't get me wrong, I don't want Tentir to spring the trap. I just want to be fair. So I reminded him about the chest and asked if there was anything else Tentir wanted to do before rejoining his companions, ending the minigame. Here's what Kevin wrote back.
Let's let that be for now. Tentir doesn't want to push it too much, I think. He'll go back and tell the others about the room and the chest, and maybe they can all come investigate together.
Chapter 23, Part 1, Day 16, Early Evening. Mythic Event Meaning, Inspect Information. Party Status, Achillea, 9 out of 9 hit points. Cord, 8 out of 14. Dureni, 9 out of 9. Fairwind, 10 out of 18. Spells available. Cord can cast Entangle, Locate Plants and Animals, and Slow poison. Achillea and the others were not idle while Tentir was gone. Fairwind, once Dureni was satisfied that his bandage was secured properly, dropped to his knees and began to mutter a litany of prayers. He spoke the words under his breath so the others could not make out exactly what he was saying. A little ways off, Cord and Achillea held a private conference. The construct was showing Achillea the thing he had taken from the slab opposite the Queen's on the far side of the room.
Cord, is this what I think it is?
Cord leaned from side to side in his way of shrugging, but it seemed fairly clear that the object gripped by his dowel fingers was the wizarding stick the fairies had spoken of. Looking like a thin, black icicle, it was about 10 inches long and close to the size of Cord's thumb at the base. The tip was rounded and was perhaps the circumference of Achillea's pinky. It was made of a single piece of some glossy, lacquer-like material and had asymmetrical ridges and nodules along its length. Although it looked black, given that her dark vision showed everything in grayscale, Achillea couldn't say for sure. It might have been dark brown or any other color.
May I?
She asked, holding out her hand. Cord creaked forward a little and put the strange thing into her palm. Achillea let out a little gasp, followed by another deeper one. At first touch, the item had felt cool, and that had surprised her. It wasn't cold like ice. It was more like the temperature of the bottom of a stone. Her second gasp was caused by a much stronger feeling, but this one was felt in her heart, not in her hand. A frantic little thrill had wormed its way up her arm and into her center, like an electrical current. Within a moment, it had attached itself somehow to her soul. She could feel it happen, and it was not an unpleasant feeling. There was a sensation like being reunited with something that had been missing and then found after a long time gone. She had never felt that her soul was incomplete, but in that moment, she thought that if she were to be separated with this treasure, she would feel its absence forever. There was no doubt in her mind anymore. This was a magical wand, a treasure sought after by all wizards. Moreover, it was now her magical wand. I've known that this item would be here ever since the encounter with the fairies, but I hadn't thought about what this wand could do until, well, I'm just now trying to decide. To begin, I don't think that Cord's taking the wand or Achillea's bonding with it will awaken the angry spirit of its former owner. As cool as an undead mage would be to put in the game, I don't think another battle is what's called for right now. The Queen was defeated fairly, and so I'm considering all of her servants to be neutralized too. This wand is the reward for winning that battle. Let's figure out what this thing can do. I'll go check the BX rules and see what it has to say about wands. Hang on, be right back. Okay, interesting. The basic rules list only 3 kinds of wands. I'm sure there's more in the expert rules, and certainly the advanced rules have about 20 different kinds. But, I'm already thinking of doing something different. How about putting aside these spell effect style wands and instead go with something that amplifies what a wielder can already do? Let's make it simple. This wand will allow the person holding it to cast spells as though they were 1 level higher. For example, without the wand, if Achillea cast the spell Shrink, she could reduce a target by 30% in size because she is level 3. This wand would allow her to achieve a 40% reduction, as though she were 4th level. I like this idea because it's easy to keep track of, and, even better, it will level nicely with the PCs. At no point would this become just another inventory item, even if Achillea lives to achieve a very high level. There we go. Done and dusted. While Fairwind prayed, and Achillea and Cord fussed over something or other, Dureni fretted. He was unhappy that Cord had taken something from one of the graves, and it made him nervous that Tentir, who had been gone for at least 10 minutes, might also allow his curiosity to overbear his good judgment. He wondered if he should go after him. He very much wanted to, but he also knew he should not. Doing that would be an insult to his brother's competence and trust. Still, with every passing minute, he grew more and more nervous. Dureni had started biting his fingernails when Fairwind, having concluded his prayer, stood up and put a hand on the elf's shoulder. He flinched in surprise and spun around, causing Fairwind to step back, raising his empty hands and saying something that sounded like an apology.
"Forgive me."
When Dureni showed a blank face of incomprehension, the cleric tried again.
Windmorgen,
he said, looking unsure. Durrani's eyebrows came together in confusion.
He means Win Morgam. He's trying to say thank you, Durrani,
supplied Achillea, who had noticed the exchange.
Fairwind, you should say Eskeri Kaska in this case.
Eskeri Kaska?
Oh, you... welcome.
Managed Durrani, using his limited knowledge of the common tongue. By now, Achillea had taught him no more than 36 words and phrases, but this happened to be one of them. Fairwind smiled and asked Achillea to translate, as he had something he wished to say to all of them. Achillea agreed, and Fairwind began.
I have realized why, thus far, I have failed. No, please. Listen, this is no false modesty. I have failed in several ways.
Here his voice strained a little as he recalled the death of Harlow.
When I came here, I told myself that I was doing so in service to Sidal, but that was not really true. Asking the 4 of you to help me lift the curse of Murok, I knew I was putting you at tremendous risk, but I justified it by telling myself once again that it was all in the service to the Lord of Light.
He shifted his feet.
Once again, I was not being honest with myself. You see, in my pride, I had cast myself as the hero. I imagined myself being the one to lift the curse and restore peace to this place, but no, I'm no hero.
You were going to sacrifice yourself to the Queen Spirit, weren't you? To save us.
For once, I will be honest with myself, Achillea. I do not think I could have gone through with it if you hadn't taken the choice away from me. You've all faced terrible danger on my behalf, but Achillea, now I see you were not sent here to help me. A cleric of Sidal is meant to serve others.
As he spoke, a little glow began to form in the cleric's medallion. Fairwind didn't seem to notice.
It is my destiny to help you, not the other way around.
The medallion grew brighter. Still, Fairwind did not see it.
Cord, please step forward and give me your hands.
Fairwind groped in the air in front of him blindly until Cord stepped forward and took the cleric's hands in his own wooden ones.
Ah, there you are. May Sidal's grace be upon you, brave man of wood.
The light from the medallion pulsed, and then a second glow appeared in the construct's torso across the breadth of the wound Mombi had given him. The new light pulsed in time with the medallions, like a twin heartbeat. Although Cord's hurt had already started to heal, Achillea and Durrani were amazed to see the wood grow back together before their eyes. When the healing was done, 2 more green shoots poked forth from the new growth.
Thank Sidal,
said Fairwind.
I have seen the light.
Fairwind has just cast his first ever miracle. It is the spell Cure Light Wounds, and it will heal Cord for 1d6 plus 1 hit points. I'll make the roll now. I got a 4, so that's 5 hit points of healing, bringing Cord up to 13 of a possible 14. When Fairwind said the word light, an actual one became visible from the corridor outside, accompanied by the sound of footfalls.
Tentir,
breathed Durrani in relief. A few moments later, while Cord was still touching his healed wound in wonderment, the younger elf walked through the archway, holding a standing lamp in one hand and a long-wrapped bundle in the other. Durrani stepped forward and embraced him hard, then stepped back. Taking in the objects in his brother's hands, he quickly surmised where he had been.
you did go off exploring alone. If I were not so glad to see you, I would smack you, Tentir.
He didn't say any more, as his relief overruled his disapproval. While Fairwind squinted against the light and Cord continued to touch his mended chest, Tentir told Achillea and Durrani everything that had happened. Achillea translated as he went. They heard about the oddly collapsed stairway, the suits of armor, the vision of Prince Learhain and the reflection of the magically transformed sword, and the chest he had left unopened. When Tentir suggested they go back together and open it, the others, as he had suspected, were not so keen on the idea. I need to make a call here, as both DM and player. I have to decide if the companions will elect to investigate the trapped chest. If they did, and they set it off, the results would be absolutely devastating, a TBK, given the nature of the trap. Now, I could roll for it, but I really dislike using dice to see what player characters will do. I could also email all the actors involved and ask them what they thought was best, but at the end of the day, this is a solo play podcast. I'm just going to say that Dureni is still of a mind to touch nothing. Achillea is smart enough to understand that the collapsed stairwell was likely a sprung trap, and Fairwind would argue that even if there was treasure to be found, what safer place could there be to store it than right here? After they've left and replaced the ceiling tile, it would be completely hidden, and it's not like they want to carry a king's treasure all the way north and back. It would be better to leave it here and pick it up on the return trip. Faced with this wall of sound judgment, I don't think Tentir could put up much of a counter-argument. He knew when he left that chest unopened that the others wouldn't be eager to mess around with it. He knew, and he left it alone anyway. In the end, this is my justification for sparing the party. Tentir has been tested, and he has passed. His and his companion's safety is the reward. Chapter 23. Part 2. Day 16. Late evening. Mythic event meaning. Inspect information. Party status. Achillea, 9 of 9 hit points. Cord, 13 of 14. Dureni, 9 of 9. Tentir, 10 of 10. Fairwind, 10 of 18. Spells available. Cord can cast Entangle, Locate Plants and Animals, and Slow Poison. An hour later, the companions found themselves back in Fairwind's home, having put out a small campfire, climbed out of the crypt, and replaced the tile that hid the entrance. By now, the rain outside had stopped, and the fire in the hearth had gone out, but the place still smelled wonderfully of cooked duck and rendered fat. Fairwind sat on the floor, naked from the waist up, and wearing his robe half off with the arms tied around his waist. His bandage already needed changing, but Dureni said that they should wait until tomorrow to wash it out in the river before redressing the wound. Despite the grievous hurt, the cleric seemed somehow more vital than ever. His face was alight with interest as he examined the sword Tentir had found. He had carefully unwrapped it and was holding it in his lap, apparently unafraid of any risk in touching it. Indeed, it appeared safe to do so. As he ran his fingertips over the 2 markings on the blade, his eyes flicked up and he sucked his teeth as though he were trying to remember something.
Fairwind,
Said Achillea. The other snapped out of his reverie and smiled at the half-elf.
do you think that the curse has been lifted on this place? Will you stay here, continue to rebuild?
This episode sure has a lot of tough decisions to make. Does Fairwind know anything about the marks on the blade? Does he know if the curse on these lands has been lifted? Finally, what will he do next? Let's tackle them in order. A few episodes back, I mentioned that Fairwind would forego an extra language in favor of having some deep knowledge about Camertinian history. It's high time I actually used that skill. Fairwind has an intelligence of 13, so he needs to roll that or under to recognize the markings on the blade. And the lower his roll, the more information he'll have. Here we go. A 16. I think he was racking his brains when Achillea asked the question, but sadly, he just cannot recall having seen these symbols before. They remain a mystery. Next, another skill check to see if he thinks the curse has been lifted. Here's the roll. A 3. That's a spread of 10, given his target of 13. And I think it means he is certain that it has not been. These questions satisfy my current event meaning. Inspect information. So I suppose I need a new one. A pair of D100s gives me 73 and 91. That's propose weapons. Okay. I do have an idea for this, and it has nothing to do with Tentir's new sword, but it's a half-baked idea. I'll need to work on it a bit. This brings us to the final question, and it cannot be answered by a die roll. Will Fairwind stay here, or return to Zacia, or will he offer to join Achillea on her quest? That is a question only Dave Cooper, the actor who voices him, can answer. I'd love to have Fairwind join the PCs long-term, but it's a big ask for a voice actor. So, I don't know. I hope so. Hang on while I send an email to ask Dave if he's down to join the party. Okay, I've got Dave's answer. In fact, he wrote me back right away.
I do not recognize these markings. From what you've told me, I would tend to believe that this sword was not enchanted until you found it and felt the spirit of Learhain pass by. I cannot say for certain, Tentir. But here, take the sword. It was clearly meant for you.
Achillea translated as Fairwind spoke, and Tentir received the sword in his hands with something akin to reverence. When he gripped the hilt, despite the straight-bladed design that was so unlike the curved edge of his own weapon, it felt good in his hands. It felt right.
As to your question, Achillea, no, I do not think the curse has been lifted. I realize now that it was prideful and foolish to have ever thought that I could be the one to do that. No, I am neither worthy nor ready.
Achillea nodded at Fairwind, but she still wanted to know.
Then, what do you intend to do now?
Fairwind looked wistfully around his poor little dwelling, and then laughed under his breath, as if finally understanding a joke long after having heard it.
I know now that I am not the hero of some great story. My proper purpose is to serve, and I was hoping that I could be of service, well, to you. Would you allow me to join you on your quest and accept whatever aid I can offer?
Achillea was touched and also surprised, but she smiled broadly as she translated the cleric's proposal to the others. After each of them had spoken their opinion, she turned back to Fairwind and said,
It would be our honor to have you along, Brother Fairwind.
Thanks very much for listening to Tale of the Manticore. Stick around after these credits for a special announcement. Now, if you would like to help to support Tale of the Manticore, there are lots of ways to do so. You can recommend the show online or to friends. You can like and repost episode announcements on social media. You can pick up one of my offerings on DriveThruRPG, for example, the brand new 99-cent One-Shot in the Dark expansion module or the free expansion module maker kit. You can also buy a Tale of the Manticore t-shirt at www.beararts.store. Finally, you can rate or review the show on your podcatcher of choice. I am ever grateful for all of your support. This time, for a change, I'd like to share a couple of reviews from the original core rules for One Shot in the Dark. John writes, 5 stars, brilliantly fun and easy to play. If you're looking for a fun little dungeon crawler with fun combat, buy this. And Brent writes, 5 stars, absolutely amazing. I started playing D&D when Moldvay had just come out, and this brings back those vibes. John and Brent, thank you very much for those kind reviews, and for helping make One Shot in the Dark a success. For those curious to learn a bit more about Tale of the Manticore, I keep a blog where I post all kinds of show and RPG-related stuff, like art, maps, tables, crafts, and show notes. You can find it at taleofthemanticore.blogspot.com. To get in touch with me, I'm at ManticoreTale on X, taleofthemanticore.bluesky.social, Tale of the Manticore podcast on Instagram, or taleofthemanticore@gmail.com. So get in touch. I would love to hear from you. The adventure will continue on the next episode of Tale of the Manticore, the story where... Oh, wait a minute. I'm not quite done. Hey, thanks for sticking around this long. I'm glad you did because I have some fun news to share. So I wanted to do something special to celebrate Tale of the Manticore's 5th year podcast anniversary, and so I created an official expansion to my rules ultralight game, One Shot in the Dark. Since its release, a number of people have contacted me with their own expansions and ideas, and I always thought, these are really cool. One day I'll make one too. I even knew what the angle would be. An all-dwarf game that picks up the Cursed Dwarven Hold storyline from Season 1. In this module, you use the One Shot in the Dark rules to lead an expedition to find out what happened there, and ultimately face off against Barrock Ironskin, the accursed usurper. Of course, you don't need to know anything about that plotline or season to play the expansion. And there's more. In making the expansion module, I realized there was a kind of puzzle-like element to the game design itself, and thought, one day I should make a guide that shows people how they can create their own expansion. Of course, one day became actually right now. End result, both products are now complete and available to download on DriveThruRPG. At $1.50, the original game is priced to be accessible to everyone. The module is cheaper still, and the Maker Kit is free. Why not give it a go and see what it's all about? If you do, I hope you enjoy it. Okay, let me try this part again. The adventure will continue on the next episode of Tale of the Manticore. It's the story where chaos rolls.